If you're an F1 fan, you've probably heard of Helmut Marko. But who exactly is he, and why does he hold so much power in the F1 paddock? Marko has been at the forefront of almost every major driver decision for Red Bull in the past 10 years. He promoted the likes of Max Verstappen, Daniel Ricciardo, and even Sebastian Vettel. But how did Marko get here? Well, it's actually quite complicated. Helmut was a weird kid growing up, to say the least. He claims to this day he only had one friend growing up. So who is this one friend, you might be asking? Well, none other than Jochen Rindt, the 1970 Formula One world champion. But sadly, Rindt would die before the season finale and would never be able to celebrate his Formula One world championship victory. Helmut was absolutely gutted by the loss of his friend, but he ended up doing the opposite of what you would expect a grieving friend to do. Helmut would sign a contract for an F1 team I'm not even going to try to pronounce. But Marko made the decision to join the sport that killed his friend. But tragedy would strike Marko as well. During his first full season in F1, a piece of debris broke through Helmut's visor and struck him directly in the eye. He lost complete sight in his left eye, and he would never race in Formula One again. After not only losing his friend to F1, but losing his own eyesight to a piece of debris, you would have thought that Helmut would have had enough of motorsports. Marko would become a driver manager, signing on Gerhard Berger and Karl Wendlinger, and after huge success with both new drivers, Marko would create his own team. His team name would be RSM Marko, which competed in Formula 3 and Formula 3000. His team instantly started gaining traction, and after a deal with Red Bull, Marko's team would be renamed to the Red Bull Driver Academy. But this was almost 25 years ago, and doesn't explain why he has any relevance now. Well, this is where Marko's story really begins. Marko would have a slow start building the future of Red Bull until 2007, when Marko would make his career-defining move. Marko would sign Sebastian Vettel to Toro Rosso, where Sebastian would take his first win in his first full season in F1. Mind you, he won a race for Red Bull's sister team before Red Bull's main team had ever even won. Soon after this, Vettel would go on to win 4 back-to-back world titles. But as if this isn't crazy enough, as Vettel was busy dominating everyone and cementing Red Bull as a dynasty, Marko wasn't satisfied and was busy building this. Marko had basically birthed 2 world champions and maybe 3 if Sainz could get his shit together. But it's not all sunshines and rainbows for Marko. As you know if you watch F1, whenever Marko's name is mentioned, it's typically a negative. But how did this come to be? Well, if you know anything about Marko, you know he's brutal. Just take this video of him and Hami Agashari, for example. And this isn't the only example. He promotes drivers too early, just for them to underperform because most of the drivers he promotes are barely adults. But when these drivers underperform, he pulls the plug on them and just leaves them for the Sharks. While this method has worked for Max Verstappen, it certainly hasn't worked for others like Gasly and Albon. Both are extremely talented, but were both put in the Red Bull seat at the wrong time. This is only scraping the top of Marko's brutal and frankly d***head attitude. He has a reputation in the paddock for having 2 polar opposite sides. On the one hand, you have the Formula One genius that promoted 4-time world champion Sebastian Vettel, and on the other, the senile old man who bosses everyone around. And honestly, more people view him as the latter. He's made some absolutely outrageous comments in the past. For f***'s sake, the dude said that Hamilton should be banned from Formula One for the Silverstone incident, but then said Hamilton was a crybaby when a 2,000-pound car landed on his head. It's gotten to the point with Marko that whenever anything leaves his mouth, I completely discredit it. Like, I personally supported Max throughout 2021, but Marko made it incredibly hard for me to want to do so. And it's a shame. Marko is truly one of the greatest minds the sport has ever seen, and without him, the sport would be almost completely unrecognizable. But with the amount of stuff he says, it makes me feel weird saying that. And honestly, I truly don't believe Marko would be where he is today without his outspoken personality. It's just the way Formula One is.